Right. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. So can you just start us off with just talking a little bit about your journey to education and kind of where you're at now?
Yeah, so I graduated from college in 2012 with a degree in sports medicine. And it's really hard to like figure out when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, it's really hard to figure out what you want to do in life. Um, and so I graduated with that sports medicine degree, never ever used it. And then I became a teacher assistant in 2016. And I coached girls basketball at the school that I work at. Well, then when I had my daughter, I took some time off, but I still coached. And I was at a game one night and I had started subbing. And one of the principals was like, "Hey, Richardson, we know, you used to be a teacher assistant here. I heard that you're subbing at a bunch of different schools. Would you be interested in being a long-term sub here?" And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I told her because I wanted to get my teaching license in PE, not in English. So
Hmm.
she was like, "Well, the class you're going to be long-term subbing for is ELA." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll sub, but I don't want to teach ELA." And man, I got in there and within like a month, I loved it so much. I was like, "All right, I'm going to take the praxis to teach ELA." So that was kind of my journey to becoming a teacher. Like and in a sense, I feel like it just kind of fell in my lap. So it was a really cool thing.
Are you still able to coach while you're teaching as well?
So I've coached the last 3 years. So the last 2 years was when I became a teacher and I was still coaching. This is the first year that I have not coached. I coached volleyball. I normally coach girls basketball, but I didn't end up coaching girls basketball this year. And as much as I love basketball, I'm kind of grateful because I cannot imagine, with TikTok now and teaching. I got a 2-year-old. I couldn't imagine, trying to balance that, and teaching a state tested subject because TikTok has become like a second job. It takes up a lot of time after school now. So I could not imagine trying to do that and coaching. So,
Yeah. So I definitely want to touch on that a little bit later on, about,
okay.
your journey to TikTok and how you're able to connect with other educators. But sometimes I feel like, at least at our schools, the coaches or the teachers that start out with coaches as coaches build, they know how to build relationships. They know how to,
Hmm.
enforce the rules and do all these great things. And so a
Hmm.
lot of them, are convinced to be teachers. And then, it's no surprise that they do really well. So it's cool to see, meet someone who also had that same, you start
Yeah.
as a coach. Cause for me, I coach soccer as well.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if I could just coach, I would love to do that.
Yeah. If
But
I could just coach.
it's cool sometimes to coach the players and then
Hmm.
teach them again,
Yep.
because you
Hmm.
kind of, it's like, hey, I've seen you outside of school, and it's great to see the kids,
Hmm.
um, doing something that they really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
What was it like going from, like your first day? I guess you had some teaching assistant experience, but like your first day, it's your own classroom.
It
You're not a
was,
coach anymore.
it was kind of scary at first because the class that I came in for, the reason that I was a long term or that they needed a long term sub, this particular year, the kids were like psychotic. I don't know what, they were crazy. And the teacher that I came in to replace, she had just graduated from college. She was a first year teacher. And by like October, she was just like, mm-mm. Her last straw, one of the kids threw a stapler and hit her in the face with it. And so that first day going into that classroom, knowing that group of sixth graders that year, they were just, I don't know what was going on with them. There was something in the water or something. They were crazy. And, from that coach's mindset, I literally don't tolerate any disrespect from kids. You're not going to throw. You're not gonna throw anything and hit me with it. You ain't gonna talk crazy because you don't pay no bills. And I'm an English teacher, so people like listening to your podcast. I'm an English teacher, but I use slang all the time because
Mhm.
that's how I communicate with my kids. That's how they know I'm not playing with you. Get your life together. So that first day going into that classroom on that first day, I was a little nervous, because I had never had my own classroom before. And even when I was a teacher assistant for PE, the coach was over her class, and so, and even though I had subbed, it wasn't my responsibility, like just gave them what their teacher, laid
Right.
out for them to do. And, in a sense, you kind of, when the rubber meets the road, you do what you need to do. And, I knew from subbing, and, I have some, background. My background is just working with kids. I worked at summer camps before. I worked at a nonprofit in Memphis as their recreation coordinator. So I kind of knew you got to lay down the law as soon as you come in, and so I just let them know, like, hey, I heard about this class that y'all hit your teacher in the face with a stapler. You better not even think about throwing anything at me. So I just kind of laid down the law when I first got in there.
Was there like a test, or they from day one, they're like, all right, she's not playing?
They did not test me.
Yeah.
They did not. They knew that I was not playing with them.
Yeah.
They did not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't put myself in positions to even really give kids the opportunity to be disrespectful like that. So, my kids, we have a saying in my class, that when it's time to be silly, it's time to be silly. But when it's time to be serious, it's time to be serious. And if we can't transition from being silly back to serious, we're not going to have any silly time. So my kids, that's kind of the relationship that we have, because nobody can be prim and proper the whole class. You just can't do that with middle schoolers. They're going to bring you back down to size because they have no chill. And so, I just I'm like a chameleon, man. I adapt to where I am. I adapt to my surroundings. But they did not test me. Well, some of them did test me, and I just would write them up and call their parents. So that, they would know you're not gonna act crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're not gonna do that here.
Yeah. I think it's kids, especially middle school kids, seeing like normal you,
Mm-hmm.
know, using slang, being silly, like we all want to be, and saying, all right, she knows how to go back and forth. So can I. If you just try and put it on the surface, then it's like, okay, that's not realistic.
And I've had some people, I've had some people say, I can't believe you're an ELA teacher and you use slang all the time. And I'm like, you know what? When I don't use slang is when I'm teaching my standards. Okay. When it's time for them, unless I'm giving an example to try to bring it to their neighborhood where they understand, when I'm teaching the standards and I'm making sure that they're ready for the state test, of course I don't use slang. But when it's us in the classroom and, they're either passing out papers or when it's that point in time, yeah, I'm going to use slang because we're having a conversation with each other. But when it's time to, teach the particular learning targets and standards and all that, of course, you gotta be professional then. But most of the time, I am who I am. Mm-hmm. Who y'all see on TikTok, that's how I am in class.
So I guess when students come into your classroom, what is, I had the question, like, if I pulled 10 students in your class, how would they describe you and your class?
Oh Lord. They would say, some of them would say I'm strict, but I'm also not so strict. One of my kids one time said, Miss Richardson, we know that you love us, but we know you will snap on us too. So I think they would say, I'm approachable, because they always ask, Miss Richardson, can I stay with you? And I'm like, no, and go to your other class. But I think they would say I'm a teacher that cares about them. I listen to them. I expect excellence from them, and I do not let them make excuses. You're going to take some personal responsibility. Miss Richardson loves you. We're going to have fun. We're going to make learning fun. But when it's time to be serious, it's time to be serious. And they would say, you don't play with Miss Richardson. She don't tolerate any kind of disrespect. She loves us, but she's not going to let us be disrespectful. And because she loves us is why she's not going to let us be disrespectful.
That sounds great, man. I want to be a student in your class when I was in sixth grade. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. What advice do you have for, someone maybe in your situation a couple years ago who maybe was making that transition, or maybe even that teacher who had left because, they just got out of it? What advice, I guess, would you have for them going in as, a way to survive, but also thrive as far as, building those relationships?
Yeah, I know that a lot of people don't, when you tell somebody to just survive, people don't like to hear that because it sounds like they're not thriving. That first year of teaching, man, you are literally just surviving. Okay. So that's my advice for first year teachers, man. Don't let anybody make you think if you're thriving, if you're out there thriving, live your best life, man. We ain't hating on you. But most first year teachers, man, you just surviving. And that's okay. I think that, my generation, the millennial generation, somebody said one time, we always need permission. We feel like we need permission, and so in a sense, let me give you permission. It's okay. It's okay to just survive that first year. That was the best advice. I teach next door to the guy who was the teacher. He became the teacher of the year that next year after I'd been there. And when I first got there, he told me, he said, listen, your first year teaching, because I would go to his class and cry all the time. And not really because of the kids, but because of all the stuff that they put on us, because I can handle kids. The sometimes the stuff that they put on us is so impossible and it's so discouraging. And he told me, he said, your first year teaching, they are not going to fire you. So just survive. Okay. And it's okay to just survive. You gotta go in and you gotta lay the law down as soon. Like, don't be joking with the kids when they first get there. You don't know. Unfortunately, you got to be like a drill sergeant, especially middle school. You got to let them know what's up as soon as they come in the door. Now, it doesn't mean you got to be ugly, but it does mean that you cannot let them see your silly side until they have only seen you be serious. Because if you show them your silly side and you joke and crack jokes with them and stuff, they're never going to take you serious. So your first interaction, and maybe even for like a week or two, your first interactions with them, no, they need to see you're serious. You're not playing with them. You don't tolerate any disrespect. Because here's the thing about middle schoolers. Matter of fact, it's just kids in general. Here's the thing about kids in general. They're like sharks, man. If they smell any blood in the water, they're going to attack. If they know that you're not going to say anything to them when they talk back to you, they're going to keep on talking back to you. So, and my thing is, I'm not going to let somebody, and now this is middle school and elementary school. High school, I really can't speak on high school, but I'm not going to let somebody who is 11 and 12 years old, who does not pay any bills, you pay no bills, you contribute no money to society. I am not going to let you tell me what to do in my classroom. Your only option is to do what I say. That's your only option. Okay. That's your only option. And sometimes I feel like new teachers really struggle with how to assert their authority. A kid, you don't have any options but to respect the person in authority. Okay. And when I first started teaching, it did take me a minute to understand that. No, you are the person that's in authority. You can, if you write them up, or you call their parent, they're 11 and 12 years old. What they gonna do? They don't pay no bills. Okay. So if you're a first year teacher or you're a new teacher, that first year, yeah, just survive. But make sure that you have a structure and you have a system for everything. Now, somebody got mad at me when I said this, and I don't really give two rusty nickels because it's the truth. Sometimes it ain't your classroom management friend. Them kids just bad. Okay. Sometimes you have done everything that you can and you are not a miracle worker. Okay. You are not a miracle worker. You are human. Okay. Sometimes it does not matter how good your classroom management is. You're still going to have to write that kid up because they still going to act a fool every day when they come to your class. Even if you put the fear of God in them, they amygdala is flipped or something and they just can't help.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think that's great advice because I think sometimes first year teachers, especially those that come, straight from college and you're promised you're going to make this, universal
Lord.
change, systemic change, and be a hero, and you're going to build relationships. And then I like what you said, it's okay to fail. It's okay to have a bad lesson or to not be good at it. Because of course you're not going to be good at it, but it's to be okay. And then I like that you said, you have to start with the systems and the routines and that first, because I know me, I wanted to, be liked. Right.
Especially us as coaches,
right.
Especially us as coaches.
Yeah. So, and then it's build, because I think about like, oh, why now when I teach, do kids listen? Whereas my
Mm-hmm.
first year, no one was listening. And then I think it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to my own confidence of saying, hey, I'm going to address that disrespect rather than be
Mm-hmm.
scared because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like afraid to have a back and forth or something like that. Or to think that everyone is going to have the same mindset as I did when I was a kid, to be like,
Right,
oh,
right,
you're talking back to me. I don't like, I would never talk back. That's just the way
right,
I was raised, and being okay with saying, okay, now I still have to address it, even
right.
though
Yep.
I'm so like in my head, I'm like, are you kidding me? You're 12 years old and you're, you
Right.
know, saying, no, I'm not going to do my work. It's like, where did that, I didn't know we could
Yeah.
do that when I was a kid.
Where'd they do that at?
Yeah. And I know that you have a kid. So I know that I feel like teachers with kids, if you see them, like I had a couple
Mm-hmm.
students a few years ago where their parents were teachers, and
Mm-hmm.
because the way that they treat, oh, thank you so much. Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
that was a great lesson. You support my kids so much. And
Yep.
so I thought, man, they, they raised their kid right, and their kid
Yeah.
knows what the teachers go through.
Yeah.
Especially like kind of like what you said about how they don't tell you the lesson plans and all these like extra
Mm-hmm.
trainings and all that stuff. It was just you and the kids, then it's a whole
Yep.
different story.
They just give you your classroom and they say, here you go.
Yeah. And then
Figure it out.
here are 20 different things that you got to do in addition
So much.
to planning.
So
Or
much.
do you have any like specific pet peeves that students have or do that you're like, okay,
I cannot stand when they come in and as soon as they walk in, they start calling my name like 500 times.
yeah,
I'm like, hey, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. And I haven't had coffee yet. Don't call my name yet. I cannot stand when I give them a pencil and they leave it on the floor. It drives me insane. Miss Richardson, I don't have a pencil. And I'm like, you don't have a pencil because you left it on the floor in every class period before this. I can't stand when I see them in the hallway and they're like, Miss Richardson, what are we doing in your class today? I'm like, work. Or when they come in and they're like, can we have a free day? No, kid, there's no free days in life.
mhm, free to,
They drive me insane with it. I love them to death though, man.
mhm,
Like I really love, like when I see them coming, they irritate the fire out of me, but I love them in the same breath, man. I mean, what would my life be without them? Like I really love them, but they do irritate us sometimes. They irritate the fire out of us sometimes.
I think I just figured out one of mine the other day when I think it was like one or two students and they're like, what did I get on the test? Oh, which questions did I get wrong? Oh. And I said, I have 140 other students, right? I'm
I don't
sorry, I don't
care.
have your questions that you got wrong
I
memorized.
don't
I'm
care.
sorry.
I
Um,
don't care. One time a kid came out of the restroom and he said, Miss Richardson, why the paper towel dispenser ain't working? I'm like, boy, do I look like I work in the bathroom? I don't know. He was like, well, just thought you would know. Why would I know?
you are the go-to, the teacher is the go-to for everything.
I'm like, dang, we don't know everything, man. Do you think I just stand in there beside the paper towel dispenser and make sure it works?
Or like the lunch food. Oh, this lunch food is nasty. You need to tell them that they need to make better lunch. You
I
think
don't
that
have
I
any say
yeah.
over what they make.
So you're like, let me go march to the state and tell the
Right,
state that they need to
right.
send more money so that these
Okay.
chicken tenders are not rubbery or
Listen,
whatever
speaking of
that.
chicken tenders, one time I was teaching and I had it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The kids get out at 3:30 and they eat lunch at like 11 o'clock in the morning. I walked past this one particular spot. There was nothing on the floor. I came walking back through there a second ago because teachers, we walk around while we're lecturing and while we're teaching, and there was just a random chicken strip on the floor. I was like, things you think you would never say as a teacher. Hey, whose chicken strip is this on the floor? I mean, I know somebody had it in their book bag and they was trying to munch on it while while I was talking, and it just ended up on the floor. I'm like, whose chicken strip is this? Oh, foolishness.
Oh my God. So
Foolishness.
when thinking about just your past couple years in teaching or even
Mhm.
coaching, have you had like a specific memory or maybe a relationship with a certain student that sticks out as being either really funny or super impactful as far as, how you look back on
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So this really, I mean, I get so choked up. I'm such a sap though. Like I really am a sap. My first year teaching, that group of kids that hit their teacher in the face with a stapler. Um, that was my first group ever. That was my first ever group of kids. Loved them to death. They was crazy when I first got in there, but I really loved them to death. Well, One of them that was a sixth grader then, he's in eighth grade now. And he was such a little terror when he was in sixth grade. I mean, crybaby, crying all the time. He was always somewhere doing something. And now when he got to seventh grade, he made the basketball team. He was on the basketball team. Eighth grade, he's on the basketball team. And he's one of those kids that like he hit a Derek Fisher shot, a lucky three, and then everybody went crazy. He didn't get a lot of playing time, but he got in, coach put him in. He hit a lucky three, and he just cheered and celebrated like it was, like Derek Fisher did. And Shaq was like, one lucky shot deserves another. So to watch him, I mean, I have watched him for the last 3 years, and he could not stand the sight of me when he was in sixth grade. And now every time he sees me, he just runs up to me. He's like, hey, Miss Richardson. And to watch him grow up, oh my gosh, like I'm such a sap. I'm like teared up right now. But to watch our kids grow up from sixth grade till they get to eighth grade, I mean, he has just become such a little man. And it is the coolest thing. He's like everybody's hype man too. Like he is like so excited to see me now. And he gave me such a hard time when he was in sixth grade. And now, I mean, he comes and finds me wherever he is. If I come to a basketball game, if I'm working the book at a basketball game, he comes and finds me. If I'm standing outside at bus dismissal, he comes and finds me. He tries to sneak back into the sixth grade building so he can come see me. I'm like, boy, you ain't supposed to be in here. Go to where you're supposed to be. And just to watch that transition, and you can tell when you have really made a difference in a kid's life and they really have connected with you. And he's one of those kids, I never thought that he would connect with me like that, because he could not stand me when he was in sixth grade, because he whined all the time. He didn't take any personal responsibility. He was always in trouble, always getting written up. And I was just like, boy, I cannot let you act like this. I said, because I care about you, I can't let you act like this. Bri Richardson, why you always got to write me up? I have to. I cannot. I got to teach you to take some personal responsibility. I can't let you make excuses. Excuses are tools of incompetence, and the people who use them rarely amount to anything. He's like, Miss Richardson, why you always say that quote? Because it's true. And so, watching him, he's going to go to high school next year. And it has just been so cool. I mean, I really love that kid to death. I really do. So that's been like one of the most memorable things for me over the last 2.5 years, to watch him like really grow up.
And then when he, graduates high school, it'll be, I feel like, even more of a
insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. When I
he's
think about,
he's gonna go on to do something big with his little crazy self. His personality, he has such charisma and he has such personality, and he may not be the best at sports, but man, he's like everybody's hype man. Okay. He's like that kid that just just high energy, lights up a room, life of the party. So yeah, when he graduates from high school, it would be very interesting to see.
Yeah. And then he can come back and talk to your sixth grade students and say, hey,
yeah,
don't mess with her, but
don't
she's
mess
great.
with Miss Richardson.
Yeah. No, I know one teacher told me the other day that their pet peeve was students who acted terribly, and then years later will come back and be like, oh, hey, how's it going? Remember when we used to act bad? And you said, yeah, I cried
Yeah.
every day because of
Okay.
you. So it's nice that we can laugh about it later.
And it's crazy. I can relate to our kids so much because I was our kids when I was growing up. I got a twin sister. One year we got to fighting so much that they put us in school suspension for the rest of the school year. Cause we were always doing something. My kids that's always getting in trouble, you don't stress me out because I was you when I was in school. Okay. I teach at a Title I school. I went to a Title I school, growing up. So I'm like, y'all, the stuff that y'all do, we did that. Me and my twin sister, we did all of that when we were in school. And y'all not gonna stress me out because I know how to handle y'all because I was y'all when I was a kid.
Yeah. So kind of on that topic, when you just think about your experience in school as a student and as a teacher, what would be something that you would like to see, like school systems as a whole, either improve or change, that's either not working or any frustrations
Mm-hmm.
you have being a teacher, and then of course being a
Mm-hmm.
student and going through that.
All the testing that we do, they test these kids too much. Okay. They test these kids too much. The testing and the data collection, all that is just really, it's too, one is too much on the teachers, it's too much on the kids. Okay. The kids are absolutely tested out. Okay. I I'm one of those people that I'm for data, because you can't grow what you don't measure, right? You got to have some kind of measurement, but you need to have an accurate measurement. And testing these kids every couple of weeks is not going to give you an accurate measurement, because they haven't had time to actually learn the information, get some remediation. That they haven't had time to learn the information. The amount of times they have to take tests, and then the data is skewed because the kids just go through and Christmas tree the test. They just bubble in answers because they're tired of testing, and so that's just something that is just not working for us. And I don't know where the disconnect is to realize that it's not working for us. Okay. I'm okay with them having their gap assessment at the beginning of the school year, because that will give us some accurate data as to where they are from the summer, to now. I'm okay with the benchmark exam right before Christmas break. But they take so many exams in the middle of that. They take so many tests in the middle of that. There is no way to have accurate data. And I'm not talking about a formative assessment that tells us whether the kids learned the information that week. I'm talking about, like, they got the gap assessment, then the first 9 weeks final, then they got the second 9 weeks final with a benchmark exam, with a benchmark writing exam, then they've got another case 21 benchmark exam, then they've got state testing, then they've got the third 9 weeks final and fourth. That's too much testing. That's too much, and the data is not going to be correct, and there's not going to be a proper measurement of it, because the kids are testing too much. Even I would be fatigued at the amount of times that they have to take a test. So, and when I give my kids a formative assessment, I try to make sure that it's something really simple that clearly shows me whether they understand the information, that was taught, or whether they don't understand it, and whether I need to do some remediation. But these long tests with 4 passages on them, all these questions, absolutely 100% no. No. And then, as teachers, we get, the brunt of it with them talking to us about the data when we go sit in PLC and data meetings. Why, number one, why are you talking to me about data during 2020, 2021? That's my question. Okay. We don't need to have data, don't need to cross my desk during this particular school year. Okay. Because the kids are struggling, the teachers are struggling, everybody's tired, man. Okay. The kids are playing musical chairs with school, because one day they're there, the next day they gone, because Sugarbug that sit next to them then got quarantined. It's too it's too much.
Yeah,
It's
and
too
then
much.
with that data, every data point they can go and start separating and labeling, certain kids as on
It's
track or at risk, and
Yeah, it's some
boom,
absolute
it follows
foolishness.
them. It follows them the rest of their.
It's foolish.
Yeah.
It's foolish.
So I just
Mm.
wanted to end off with a little bit of a lighter note, but it's talking about your TikTok videos,
Yeah.
and that's how, of course, I stumbled upon your great social media and presence and stuff. So what inspired you to? Yeah, I know TikTok's slow, growing and stuff, but specifically the videos that you do. Can you kind of just give my audience like a
Yeah.
little background on that?
Yeah. So when we got out in March, we went to virtual in March. It was just me and my 2-year-old at home, just the two of us. And, I needed an outlet. So really I got on TikTok and I was just scrolling, watching videos. And I thought TikTok was like dance videos. And I'm like, bro, I'm not dancing because, contrary to popular belief, all Black people ain't got rhythm. So I cannot, I cannot dance. And I started seeing people that were doing skits and they were doing voiceovers and stuff. And so I started doing that, and it didn't really take off or whatever. And then my first TikTok that took off was when school started back. I heard this song, Try Jesus, Not Me. And I was like, yo, that's really funny. I should do a TikTok on that. So I drew up an anchor chart with Try Jesus lyrics on there. And then the caption was me threatening my kids because they're going to have a sub tomorrow and I'm going to be out. Well, that was my first video to go viral. I think it got to like 60,000 views. And when you go from like 2,000 to 3,000 views on a video and you see that one has 60,000 views, you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Yeah.
So I did that one. And then I did some more, and none of them ever really took off. And then I came home from work one day, and my Tristan, because I don't have a kid named Tristan. Tristan is the name of every child in my class who irritates the fire out of me. Okay. Now Tristan is my kids they always doing something. Okay, but they're not necessarily disrespectful. Jacoby is my kid that's always doing something. He extra disrespectful, and I gotta let him know what's up. So a kid stabbed another kid in the hand with a pencil. Now, this was not in my class, it was in another teacher's class, but my kids came and told me about it. And I knew, because middle schoolers always say that wasn't me, I didn't even do nothing. Okay, honest teacher vibes, we got a shirt coming out that says I ain't even do nothing, the middle schoolers motto, because that's their favorite thing to say, and it drives all teachers crazy. So one day I came home and I was so frustrated, hearing about that situation. I was like, maybe I should I didn't even think of it as a skit. I just was like, I'm just gonna do this. And it took off, and it had so many views. And after that video, I didn't make any more videos like that, because I was just like, oh, that was just a fluke or whatever. Like, people just thought that one was funny. Well, then I did another one because I was up at the school, and me and another teacher on the weekend doing work, we're talking about this parent that called, and they were really ticked off, and they were like, why did y'all not tell me my kid had a 0? Or why are y'all not grading my kid's work? And y'all are bullying my kid and all this stuff. And it really made me frustrated. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a TikTok about that. Well, that one got to like 1 million views. And I was like, what is going on? Yeah. So, if something ain't broke, don't fix it. So I was like, obviously people think these skits are funny. And so that's how, I started making these teacher skits. And it's just kind of took off from there. It's insane. It's insane. At the beginning of January, before we got out for Christmas break, I had like 30,000 followers. When we came back from Christmas break, I had 100,000 followers. Wow. Then that was at the beginning of January. I'm now at 185,000 followers at the end of January. I'm like, what is going on? It's insane. It literally makes no sense to me. And it's just so fun. And my friends have always told me I'm funny and I act a fool and I'm like a class clown, life of the party. I'm like, well, now I get paid to act a fool and be the life of the party and be a class clown. And it's just so fun. So bringing these teacher stories to life across the country. I mean, people send me their stories all the time, and it's awesome. I love creating a skit to bring their stories to life. And I think that it's super relatable, because we all deal with the same thing. And so, yeah, I'm going, if it ain't broke, I ain't gonna fix it. And as long as people keep sending me their stories, I'm going to create, skits off of the stories that they send.
Yeah, they're super funny. They have me nodding my head. And especially now, teachers are just, wanting to like stay connected, especially teachers who teach virtually. And no kid has their camera on and they don't get that same energy. You give that, and I love that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm glad it's been so successful, and I wish you more success as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I had.
Awesome.
Did you? I guess if you wanted to, if there's anything else, I know you mentioned a shirt that was coming out, but is there anything else that maybe you wanted an audience to know about, a project that you're going on, a Donors Choose, or anything that you have?
Yeah, I have an Amazon wish list. People have sent so much stuff to my kids. It is so encouraging, because when you teach at a Title I school, your resources are kind of, lacking. And because of the state that I'm in, we can't use Donors Choose, all these other, platforms that people use. We're not allowed to use them for some reason. I don't know why. So my Amazon wish list has been, how I've gotten supplies for my kids. And I have been able to give away so many supplies to other teachers who need them, because people send, we always need paper. We always need expo markers, pencils, things like that. But when you're at a Title I school and your kids are on a low reading level, okay, getting high interest books that the kids are interested in reading is the only way we can grow their reading level. And people have sent my kids, Dork Diaries, Dog Man, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Last Kids on Earth, the Selection series by Kira Cat. I mean, people have sent books that are high interest books, and the rate that my kids are reading, there's no way they're not going to grow by the end of this year. And it has been so unbelievably encouraging people from TikTok and people just from social media in general. They have significantly improved my students' quality of life at school because of the supplies and the resources that they have provided for them. It's insane. So, if people want to, give and get something off my Amazon wish list for my students. I teach at one of the largest middle schools in the state of Mississippi. There's never a time where we're going to run out of need for supplies because I have 65 other teachers that I teach with, and being able to give those supplies away because people send so much stuff is phenomenal. So yeah.
That sounds great. I will definitely pass the word on, and that's awesome that you're able to give not only to your students but also your entire school as well.
It's really cool.
So that's all I had. I really again do appreciate you taking the time. I know
Yeah,
you've
no
probably got
problem.
to jet off back to school to get your laptop, but then do even more great work as far as having some of your followers on Zoom.
Yeah, thank you so much for the interview. It was really, really fun. I enjoyed it.
Cool. Well, let's definitely stay in touch, and
Yeah.
I will. I'll reach out to you by email, just for maybe a couple pictures,
Okay.
and an intro, and if so I can do some cool like pull quotes and stuff that I've been doing
Okay.
with previous guests. But
Sounds cool.
I do have to say, you are my first guest who I actually did not know in advance, so I
What?
was a little
That's
bit nervous.
awesome.
Um, but you're awesome. So I have no
Dude, you're an
regrets.
absolute
And
natural.
if
I feel
you,
like we've been best friends since we were kids.
I know. But so if you know of any other, cool guests that
I
through
got
your
you.
network, please send them along because I'd love to have them on.
Yeah, I got you.